Well, the canonical status of the Daredevil series has finally been revealed, and it turns out some of you were pretty right. To talk about what the head of streaming, television, and animation at Marvel Studios had to say about the character, and why the situation has always been a little bit cagey. Now before we do that though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC videos, and we want to be your place for all the superhero news, but we want to do it truthfully and transparently so you are really in the know. Well, ever since Daredevil originally came to Netflix, there's always been a huge question about where those Netflix characters fit into the primary MCU. Over time, it became more and more apparent that these shows possibly were in an alternative timeline or distinctly separate from what Kevin Feige was doing at Marvel Studios. Now, as many of you know, Kevin Feige basically runs everything Marvel at this point, and that includes TV. And in the era of the Disney Plus series, they brought the character back, and they're currently working on Daredevil Born Again. Now, one of the big questions has always been, is the original show canon and part of the sacred timeline? And quite honestly, Marvel has been super elusive about that question, but now we seem to have a definitive answer. Now recently, Marvel Studios head of streaming, television, and animation, Brad Winderbaum, was speaking with Screen Rant and shared some of his feelings on the Netflix show and where it fit in the MCU canon. And what he had to say clarified Daredevil's status, but boy, it brought up a lot of other questions. In the interview, he said, "So I can say that up to this point, we've been a bit cagey about what's sacred timeline, what's not sacred timeline. That was born of, frankly, a period at the studio where we were like, we have to stick the landing with Avengers. It was another part of the company developing the Netflix stuff. We were aware of what they were doing, they were aware of what we were doing, but it was a lot. It was a lot to balance anyway. But now that time has passed, and now we actually see how well integrated the stories are. I think that I personally, Brad Winderbaum, would be confident in saying it is part of the sacred timeline." Now, wow guys, I have to say this is a pretty big deal, because if Daredevil is part of the sacred timeline, it absolutely suggests that all of those other Netflix shows will indeed be part of the sacred timeline. Now, Daredevil made his first appearance in the MCU in Spider-Man No Way Home, and since then had a pretty big part in She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Now, we also know he's showing up in Echo, and having that full story already part of the MCU lays the groundwork for a lot of stuff. This raises a lot of questions about characters that were introduced in that show, and in the expanded Netflix series. A lot of great street-level characters came to life during that time frame, everybody from Elektra to Bullseye to even Typhoid Mary, and I have to wonder what Marvel Studios' plans are, because it's pretty clear they're putting together some huge street-level adventure with multiple heroes, suggesting multiple villains. Now recently there was a report that Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin was indeed going to become the Thanos of those street-level heroes, leading to a major face-off between him and the heroes of New York. And it even sounds like quite possibly we're going to get a full-on Devil's Reign story from Marvel over multiple shows and films in the next couple of years. Quite honestly, the Daredevil series on Netflix is still one of the best superhero shows ever, and I like the idea of it being canon, but I also like the idea of Marvel Studios somewhat being able to cherry pick and use the characters they want, but not carry on things that didn't work. The good news is Secret Wars is not that far away, and I actually suspect they're going to integrate Daredevil as is for right now, but after Secret Wars, all bets are off. They can take any of those characters in any direction they want. Like I said, the big question is returning villains and who will come back. I know many fans want to see Bullseye return because we were teased with that character right at the end of the series, and since it didn't get an official season 4, we never found out how that panned out. I totally appreciate Winderbaum making this clear. He is indeed a Marvel executive and reports right to Kevin Feige, so I don't think he made this statement lightly, and I don't think he made this statement without it being approved by him first.